Hey everyone, happy holidays. Thanks for listening to our podcast. Just quick housekeeping note. If you want to engage with us more, you can find us on Instagram at Read Watch Play Podcast, or you can email us at readwatchplaypod@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you enjoy our best of episode.
Welcome to Read, Watch, Play, and our second annual Best Things We Have Read, Watched, and Played this year. I gotta be honest, this might be my favorite episode we do every year. Considering this is only our second year of podcasting, that is not a very large statement. We can just get right into it. The purpose of this episode, we're here to celebrate some of the things we loved this year, provide our listeners with some insights into what Nick and I have been doing, what we've been liking. As it's the holidays, you probably have some downtime, so you can treat this as a signed, sealed, and delivered recommendation from us for 2024. And we have some recommendations from you all, so it's your chance to kind of shout those out to the world. We'll probably first discuss a little bit how the year went in terms of content on things we covered on the show, outside the show. We'll get into our top 7 lists, counting down from 7 to 1. We'll sprinkle in some listener comments along the way. And finally, we'll close out with what we're looking forward to next year. Nick, my first question for you. How was your year of reading, watching, playing?
I think it was pretty good. It was okay, I guess. I don't know. Sucked.
Spending it with me?
Yeah.
Awful.
No, I think it was pretty good. It's really hard to compile these lists. I mean, I don't play very many video games, so that's easy. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty good about keeping my Goodreads up to date, so that was pretty easy. I did not write down a single thing that I had watched this year. Really? And I don't use Letterboxd very often, so I need to start doing that, because there was as I was getting this list ready, I had to be like, "Hey, Michaela, did we watch this year or last year? When did we watch this? Was this the first time we saw that?" Should we let the listeners know what the ground rules were for compiling the list before we jump into it?
Yeah, we can do that before we start.
Yeah, and then I want to hear about how your year was.
Yeah, for what we consider, we say it just had to have been our first experience this year engaging with it. That is because, I think we talked about this last year. I don't really read books the year they come out. I feel like we're all over the map year-wise on release date. Even games, I'm pretty slow in the gaming world. Very rarely am I playing a new release or anything like that. I'm usually chipping away at something that I missed when it came out. For me personally, I will contain myself to 2024 releases, just because I watch so many movies that it was just easier to narrow down the list of 2024 releases. But I'll shout out 1 or 2 older ones that I really love this year that probably most listeners have seen. I think in terms of how we go through it, as we count down, I think if we have an overlapping one, maybe we'll hold off on discussing it. You can mention it, obviously, but we'll hold off on discussing it till we get to whoever has it, higher on the list. And by higher, I mean closer to 1. So that's what I'm thinking in kind of terms of the structure. But in terms of my year, I mean, we've talked about this. Reading, first part of our podcast name, had a pretty mediocre year reading.
Dude, you read Argyle this year. What do you mean?
It's true.
What do you mean?
Maybe that I just set the tone for the year. Just rough start. That was my first thing I logged on Goodreads. I was going through last night, and I wouldn't even say it was a bad year. It was just a mediocre year. I gave a lot of 3 stars on Goodreads this year. A lot of things that I enjoyed, but wouldn't stretch to say I loved, even personally. On show stuff, I liked Queen's Gambit. I, quite liked Casino Royale. There were things about American Psycho I liked, but anything new that I read for the first time this year just didn't elevate to that higher level for me. And even right now, I thought I'd close the year out. I bought some really sort of pulpy spy thriller set in World War II that's 200 pages that I thought I was just going to love, is right up my alley. And it's not grabbing me. And it's just been poor writing style. And I haven't been able to win this year. But luckily, I'm closing the year on Twilight for your birthday episode. So it's all smooth sailing from here.
starting with Argyle, finishing with Twilight.
No.
That doesn't sum up
Yeah.
your reading year. I don't know what does.
Yeah. True.
Both of which
Oh
are
my
my
God.
suggestions.
Yeah. We need to get some workers' comp for this podcast because I feel like I'm just.
I knew how you would feel about Twilight, right? That I'm doing because I think it's funny. I genuinely expected Argyle to be good with all the hype around the cast and the movie.
And that was a new release.
And it was a brand new release. I had no idea what we were getting into.
Yeah. How would you say, I feel like what I gather from when we talk, you and Michaela seem like more TV people. Seem like you watch a lot of TV. Do you think it was a good year? I don't know. Maybe that's not accurate. Would you say it's been a good year in television, 2024?
I will say this. When Michaela and I watch things together, more TV shows.
Yeah.
I'll watch movies by myself, especially movies I know she's not going to want to see. I'll watch them, by myself in the mornings or whatever. But yeah, I do think it was a great year for TV. And you have, I'm just going to go down with what we watch.
Yeah.
Great reality TV this year. A really good season of Survivor. Some other reality TV shows. You also have Shrinking on Apple TV, which is probably the best sitcom on TV right now, followed very closely by Abbott Elementary, which had an absolute banger of a season. Abbott Elementary and Shrinking are the only two sitcoms where every single episode has made me actually laugh out loud.
That's great.
Like, genuinely, across all the seasons.
Yeah.
And then you also have, Silo came back. You had Dark Matter, which was a really big adaptation this year. I mean, there was a lot of really good TV, I think.
It's awesome to hear. I like that.
Yeah. Shrinking, what about movies? Sorry, go ahead. Let's talk about Shrinking.
I was just going to say, read a listener comment. That was the one TV show they shouted out was Shrinking, how much they liked it. So we'll probably throw that out there later. Movies were an interesting year. We are coming off the writer's strike last year, and I think that was felt. We started off the year pretty good in some regards, but it was kind of a mediocre year in movies. But I will say there was a wide variety of interesting things that I really loved this year. But if I look at my top movies from 2023 compared to this year, last year I had a lot of movies that were kind of hovering around like a 4.5, 4 out of 5 stars. This year, just a lot of like 3 to 3.5 stars. Like there was a lot of movies that I kind of similar to my reading that I liked this year, but I had some flaws. There were a few disappointments. We just saw Gladiator 2, and why I liked Gladiator 2, living up to the 2000, maybe one of the best action movies of the 21st century, is a tough bar. And as a massive Ridley Scott fan, it just left me just a little sad, but I still had a good time with it. So it's just not been an excellent year in movies, especially coming off 2023, which I think was and is going to go down in history as one of the best years in movie history. It's just been not as good this year. But I watched a lot, like way too much on the movie screen, but is what it is. Did you have any reading goals this year?
20 books. And it's easy to make that goal because we read like 18 for this podcast.
Yeah. Most of my reading this year was for the show.
Yeah. My goal was 20 and I'm at 23. So we're recording this on December 15th.
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, I'll be at 25. And that is pretty cool to me. So
it's a pretty good year.
What about you?
Yeah, I did a 20 as well. I'm probably just going to get to 20. I'm at 18 right now, and I'll have Twilight, and I'm finishing up I think the book is called The Berlin Exchange, this spy sort of thriller book I've read, or I'm reading
the 200-page
right
one you were just talking about?
Yeah, so if I finish those two up, I'll be at 20, which I'll be satisfied with. There's a few other things that I've kind of been like chipping away at. that I won't finish this year, but I'd like to read more next year. And I would like to read some things that I really love next year, which would be a nice change.
I mean, not to get ahead of us here, but looking at our list for next year, we've got some bangers on there that I think are going to be a lot of fun.
There's already one for sure that I suspect I already know it is going to be, it's one of my favorite movies that I've watched in quite some time. And I expect the book to be just as good.
Okay.
So we'll leave a little tease for that. In terms of this year podcasting, besides unfortunately having to talk to me so much, anything that was a surprise without spoiling your list? Any kind of favorite episodes, even outside of the content? Biggest disappointments that you expected to like that we covered and you didn't?
I don't know how surprised I was that I liked The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but I will say I was surprised I liked it as much as I did.
Makes me happy.
I had some problems with the movie as a standalone, right? But the book itself was fantastic. And as an adaptation, the movie was really good. Like literally just as a standalone, I don't think, that movie was perfect, but the book was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
But no, I think honestly this year I felt like I knew what we were getting into with almost every other story.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to do more next year before, I don't want to spoil that conversation later, of things that are both really new to both of us, that maybe we can find something we both love together that's fresh.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of that this year. Though I will say my top 3 episodes that we did. I mean, obviously, I'm going to put Sorcerer's Stone aside because it's just a meaningful episode for me. But Pirates of the Caribbean was an absolute blast to record together. Ocean's 11 was an absolute blast. And then I love the 2001 Space Odyssey episode. And that did really well for us this year in terms of like listens and everything too. That was just really fun to talk with Aiden. And I also just felt like all of our varying perspectives on not only the book, but the movie and the story, it just resulted in such a great episode because we all had different feelings towards it. And I have great memories of all 3 of those episodes.
Yeah. You know which episode I think we need to put on that list?
Yeah.
The episode with Becca and her book.
Yeah, that was a great one.
I'd Still Choose You. That was a really, really meaningful conversation that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, me too. I think in general, we did not have any guests in 2023. So it was really fun to branch out this year and just bring some new voices onto the show, which was, it was a good time.
4.
Yeah, we had 4 people who actually want to talk to us. It's new for me. So that was a good time.
Forced to talk to me. Aiden's about to spend a week with me at Christmas.
Yeah. Good luck, Aiden. And then, I don't know, anything else you got to say on kind of this past year?
I think we took great strides in this podcast over the last year in figuring out who we are and the type of show that we want to put out and the type of product. And that was really cool to see as well.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And it was awesome to get the sort of Spotify Unwrapped from the creator side and just see, how many countries people are listening to us in, how much we've grown in terms of kind of like followers over this year. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that there are 11 people out there who are not ourselves, who have us as their top show is wild to me just on Spotify. I mean, like I said, it doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that we're the most listened to for that person is crazy to me.
It's pretty cool.
Because I have to listen to us when we edit.
That much. Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. But we really appreciate that. It's been fun to grow. It's been fun to weave in some of the action and the horror this year. It's been fun to have guests. So it's been a great first full calendar year, and I'm excited to do it again.
Yeah, me too.
All right. How did you go about compiling your list? You said you had some challenges because, well, one, you didn't. Did you play any games in this year?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I don't want to say
I won't
anything
spoil that. Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's actually coming up. So
Cool. I won't spoil
I'm not
that
trying to
then,
be a
but
jerk. I just don't want to
no. Yeah. So I guess give me some context to how do you think about, like, what does this mean to you? Are you going, we said last year that this is our favorites, not what we think is like the best of the year.
right.
So when you're kind of
Pure
planning out
enjoyment
this list,
factor.
yeah, how did you put it together?
That was what I did. I sat down and I started thinking,
Mhm.
what did I enjoy this year? And I wrote down
Yeah.
everything. Then I went through the list and I was like, this is, I put The Sopranos on the list. I've seen it like, this is my fourth or fifth, like
Yeah.
watch through and watch it with me. I was like, that's got to go. Not because it's not perfect and amazing and the thing I've enjoyed the most this year, but I saw it, however many years ago for the first time, whatever. So that had to go.
Yeah.
So then I got down to my list of things that I saw for the first time this year. And from there, it was just mix and matching, where things went. And I made this, amazing top 5 list that had to be a top 7 because somebody on this podcast can't make a top 5.
Hey, if we were strictly a book podcast, I'd be all for it. 5 would be sufficient. But when we cover the variety of things, I mean, between a book, a TV show, a movie, and a game, that's already 4 slots. That's just too much real estate for
You don't
how
need,
much I can contain myself on a rapid fire.
you don't need all of them.
I do.
You could pick from one category and then just that could be the 5 things you enjoyed the most.
Yeah. I just want more, Nick. I always want more. I will say there are a few big movies that are coming out in the next week or two that I've yet to see for me that I think could shake up my top list. So this is pre them, which I'll say. I haven't seen the Bob Dylan movie yet, A Complete Unknown.
Yep.
I haven't seen Wicked. I don't expect it would fall into my top, but I don't know anything about Wicked. So who knows? I could be surprised. I think we're going to see it in the next week or two. I don't know if you're Wicked people.
We're going.
The Brutalist, you're going.
Right after Christmas.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
With
I think
Michaela's
we'll
family,
probably go in the next week or two. Is Michaela a Wicked person? Familiar with the play at all or anything?
And her mom love the show. I've never seen the show, but I did listen to the soundtrack for the first time when we were driving up to Philly for Thanksgiving.
Cool. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what it's about. It's kind of like an unknown area to me. So who knows? Maybe that could shake things up. There's also a movie called The Brutalist coming out on Christmas Day that I think I will really like. Nickel Boys and Nosferatu. So who knows? Those things could shake up the list, but I haven't seen them yet, so I can't count them. You ready to get into our lists?
Absolutely.
Do you want to start at 7, kick us off here?
Sure. I'm going to throw out a podcast. I did it last year. I'm going to do it this year. This year, we found the Normal Gossip podcast. The Normal Gossip podcast is hosted by Kelsey McKinney, who also wrote a book. But basically, people write in with their just everyday, regular gossip stories. And the way she tells these stories is absolutely hysterical. The podcast is about an hour, I think, is what I'm finding. Maybe an hour and a half. Yeah. But if you need a good laugh, it's all of people's petty bullshit. And we listened to probably 3 or 4 episodes on the trip to Philly for Thanksgiving, or, there and back.
Yeah.
And it was a great break from just, you don't have to think, you can just listen and enjoy. Great storytelling. Came in at number 7 for me this year.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the one you had last year was. It was some sort of
Petty Crimes.
Petty Crimes, yeah. It was somewhat similar, yeah. And I think you had also been listening to it on Thanksgiving travel.
That's when we found it. It's hosted. Petty Crimes is hosted by Kira and Griff. Kira is actually an SNL writer, and Griff is an actor in LA. And I will say they took a break, and then they came back for what I'm calling season 3. Maybe they're calling it season 3. I don't know where I got that from. And they took a step forward, I think.
Nice.
As like personalities on the podcast. And I think especially this last like few episodes or whatever, it have been S tier material, like truly great. But because I mentioned them last year, they couldn't be on this year's list.
What was your number one podcast listened to this past year when you got your Unwrapped? Or you do Apple?
Yeah, I don't have Spotify. I don't get Unwraps. But the only Unwrapped I got was the podcast one.
Apple does a replay, though, or something, right? So
I don't know. I didn't look.
Oh, you don't know? Okay. What do you think was your number one podcast?
Probably ours. Because I like to listen to the episode and just see how it went.
Yeah.
And most of my podcast listening is in the car with Michaela, and we end up playing them from her phone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Number 7 for me. Going with, this was actually a 2024 release in the video game world. Astrobot. PlayStation exclusive. Just won Game of the Year 2 days ago.
Really?
It was so much fun. It is, Nick, on the PlayStation. It's the team that does kind of, when you get a PlayStation, they have the tech demo. It was called like Astro's Playroom. I forget what it was called on PS4, but it's the little mini game that teaches you how to use the controller, how to use the PlayStation. But the team who does the tech demo built a full platforming game. Unbelievable amount of fun. It was kind of like a PlayStation Mario in a way. Alyssa even loved it. She went through. She beat the whole game before I even did. It was just like a joy, and they weave in like PlayStation nostalgia. Just had a great time with it. Easily made my top 7 list. I was really excited for it, and it really delivered. And it just makes me happy that people are enjoying just like kind of a goofy platforming game that is like what video games are supposed to be. Just having fun, picking up a controller. Anyone can do it. So
that's awesome.
I really enjoyed that one this year.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I think you would even like it, as like, it's not intense. You can beat it in like maybe 10 hours, not even. It's just kind of like
a little fun playthrough.
It was really good.
Yeah,
I was very happy to see one Game of the Year. Before we go into our next pick, we have some listener comments.
Yeah, this first one comes from Brian. Brian wrote in and gave us his best movies, books, and games actually for the year. So for movies, Brian had The Menu, The Apprentice, and Hundreds of Beavers are standouts this year, although Deadpool and Wolverine and Transformers 1 were his top 2 nods in that category. Did you see either one of those this year?
I saw Deadpool and Wolverine. Did you?
No, I didn't. It's on my list. It just hasn't worked out for me to get to the movies very much. But
it was fun. I don't think it would be close to my favorites, but we had a good time with it. I like Ryan Reynolds. I like the character of Deadpool. I like Hugh Jackman. We laughed. We had a good time at the movies. Delivered what I expected it to be. The Menu. Love that. Honestly, I've seen The Menu and Hundreds of Beavers. Both great movies. The Menu is more, they need to make more movies like this.
Here's my thing about The Menu. There was no nuance to it, in my opinion. It was really on the nose, beat you to death with the Eat the Rich theme. And that took me out of it a little bit. Like, I think it was shot really well. I think it was acted really well. It was entertaining, but the reason I couldn't put that on a best of is for me, because I just felt it was too on the nose for too long.
Yeah. I think that's what I kind of like about it, in that I don't feel like we get movies like that anymore this is funneling into a slot that has been pushed out of movie making, which is it's not a blockbuster and it's not a streaming movie. This is a right down the middle, you know what you're getting type movie that has 1 or 2 stars in it. And it's not trying to tell you something, some big idea. You just kind of enter into it, you have a fun time, and it's like this mid-budget movie that has just gotten squeezed out of the movie making world.
It's a fair
point. They
point.
just don't do. That's not a fresh original story. So I loved that they made this, and I love that Ralph Fiennes was in it. Originally was supposed to be Emma Stone in the lead role way back in the day, but then it got changed to your girl Anya Taylor-Joy, and I had a good time. And that cheeseburger at the end looked fantastic.
It did look like a good cheeseburger. I will give you that.
You want to roll into his books and games recommendation?
Yeah, Brian said, I only read 2 books this year because of my schooling and the fact that I am keeping those books out of the running. I doubt anyone wants to hear my riveting take on theoretical mathematics for video games. Wouldn't hate that, Brian. Uh, so Ready so Ready Player One is too old to take it, and that means this year title goes to Brent Weeks' The Way of the Shadow. It's actually on my reading list. It's on my TBR. So glad to hear someone's recommending it because that maybe I'll move it up and I'll put it towards the top of my list. And then for games, Brian said this has been a banger of a year for his gaming life. The podcast aside, there have been some good games. Squirrel with a Gun came out of nowhere and was a pleasure to play. And Final Fantasy 12? 7. I can read Roman numerals. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a great second part to this revitalized game. So 2 categories for me. Best podcast game as of today. Metroid Zero Mission. This came out of nowhere for a guy who doesn't really enjoy the Metroid games, and the best non-podcasted game, same criteria, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was the game I focused on and loved the most. I love me some Final Fantasy, and this one didn't disappoint.
Love it. Brian from the Retrotopia pod, and I appreciate it. I didn't even tell people to do this when they submitted these, but everyone broke theirs down into actual read, watch, play categories, which I found really funny.
I love that.
I appreciate all of these that we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
I'll run through. Next one came in from Super Dave. He said, I hit some pretty big reading collecting milestones this year. I completed my set of Michael Crichton novels and got an extra surprise with Eruption, written by James Patterson, based on a Crichton manuscript. No, he's a big Crichton fan. I love that. I have a few on my read list next year from Crichton.
Okay.
On the manga side, I finished collecting 2 series, Blame and Full Metal Alchemist. Best thing I watched is tough, he says. But for me, getting in a movie theater, I'd say Wicked was the better experience, although Deadpool and Wolverine was really fun as well. Another shout for Deadpool and Wolverine. Anime, love it and can't live without it. I recommend you check Look Back on Amazon Prime. Heartwarming story about 2 girls who work in, I'm always scared I'm going to pronounce this wrong, manga together as they grow up. And the source of manga is also really good if you want a quick read. This year was also the return of a favorite series of mine in movie form, Mononoke, The Phantom in the Rain. First of 3 parts, it's an action horror mystery series where a mysterious medicine man tracks down and slays cursed beings called Mononoke, but he needs to meet certain criteria before his sword can be drawn. You won't find another art style like this series. Also hoping the Lord of the Rings anime pans out well. I plan to watch that with my dad over the holidays. And on the play side, he said, my favorite game this year is Persona 3 Reload. It's a return to the game that introduced me to JRPGs with all new spit and polish. I've had a great time experiencing the story all over again. Whew. You guys gave us some thoughts. That was a lot.
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you so much for putting that time into those reviews. That's fantastic. I love it.
I'm definitely going to check out The Lord of the Rings. I hope we can catch it in theaters, but we'll see. Super Dave shouted out Persona. I have been trying to chip away at Persona 5 on Switch for a long time, and I just keep getting distracted with it. I really like it, but I just haven't stuck to it, which I need to do. But
okay.
Thanks for writing in, Super Dave. Love all the thoughts. Appreciate it, buddy. Ready to roll into your number 6?
Yeah, my number 6 is a 3-parter, so buckle up. It's Casino, Wise Guy, and Donnie Brasco, the books.
While you're having your coughing break, I'm going to stop you right there before you give your explanation, which I'm eager to hear.
Yeah.
2nd year running, I get absolute shit for wanting to do lists of 10 or 7. And then you come in here and Trojan horse in multiple nominees within a single number. You did this with Barbenheimer. And I'm like, I feel like I'm being gaslit by my podcast host here. Like, dude, fuck you.
Listen,
go ahead. All great movies.
Oh, no, I'm not even talking about the movies. These are the books.
Oh, the books. Okay.
One of the things I'm revolting against is you not letting us make this a top 5. The other thing I'm revolting against is all the mean things you've said about me in the intros. And this is how I'm taking payback. This and my birthday episode. So
Oh my God.
you better buckle up, because this actually isn't even the most egregious breaking of the rules I'm doing on this list. So
yeah, whatever. Give me it. What'd you like about your Mafia books?
Okay, so you and I talk about those Mafia movies all the time, right? And we definitely are going to cover them. But I hadn't read any of them before. And it's really interesting to read them and get to see, because like where these people are coming from. Because Wise Guy is written by an actual mobster. Donnie Brasco was written by the police officer who did the undercover work, and Casino's just kind of a telling of some of these events from people who were around, and it was super, super interesting to hear those stories and then how they differed from the movies. Like exactly what this podcast is. They're all super short. You can knock if you did audiobooks, you could probably knock them out in 10 hours total.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's spoil it. We're gonna be doing Mafia month sometime in
Mafia
2025.
May, right?
Mafia May. I'm pretty excited. Find me a dude out there who doesn't love stories about the Mafia. Just try me on that one. It's like the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
But I've never read any of them. I'm excited.
Have you seen all three of those?
Seen all of them, yeah. Love. Goodfellas, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best intros to a movie ever.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Wise Guy is the book that was Goodfellas, for those who may not know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I think, we'll talk about it when we do the episode, but I think Casino was hurt a little bit coming out so close to Goodfellas, because it's a really great movie in its own right.
Yeah.
But I think people felt like Scorsese was dipping into the same pool a little bit again. But
yeah, that's fair.
Love them both. I think, and I think people need to give Casino a little bit more love. Number 6 for me is a movie called Kneecap. I watched it in the past week, and it instantly shot into not only one of my favorite movies of the year, but one of my favorite movies of the last few years. It is, I don't want to spoil too much, because some of the surprise of it, I think, led me to love it as much as I did. It is about 3 people in the north of Ireland who start a rap group singing entirely in Irish. And it blew me away. It was had the hilarious sort of crazy scattered vibe of a Train Spotting, but really covertly delivered some serious message and storytelling. And I felt like I just learned about something I hadn't really thought about, which is how do people that live in the north of Ireland kind of feel now about kind of the British Empire and all that went on with the IRA and car bombings and everything there, and the dying language of Irish. It blew me away. It's on Netflix right now, and I absolutely loved this movie. My number 3 movie of the year. Love it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, super good. Check it out. I think you'd.
Yeah, I will. I just Googled it and it looks super interesting. I'm just looking at the artwork and the trailer's kind of playing it. I think it's something I would like a lot, actually.
Yeah. Big fan.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about it before right now.
Yeah, it's flown really under the radar this year, and I didn't know about it until a week or two ago. And Alyssa was away for work for a week, and I threw it on, and it was just, it totally just blew me back. Had a blast with it. You want to give me your number 5?
Yeah, I think this one will surprise you as well. It's a little bit of a loose interpretation, but I saw the Nutcracker for the first time, the ballet at a theater. So I think it still counts, right?
Yeah.
For this,
it's a story.
I watched it for the first time. Yeah. I had never seen it. To be honest, I didn't quite expect to enjoy it as much as I did. But Michaela and I went with some good friends, and we had a great time. And the show was beautifully done by the Houston Ballet. And it was just an all around really cool experience. We went actually on Thursday. So, I mean, this just happened, but I walked out of there with like just a really happy feeling good. And I knew right then I wanted to put it on this list. It was just figuring out where it fit.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'd seen the Nutcracker in New York City for like a Christmas
that's awesome.
time. We used to go up to New York a lot at Christmas, go see the Rockettes and, do the ice skating and the tree. The one year we saw the Nutcracker there. It was pretty cool. I mean, the music to the Nutcracker is really good. Like they knew what they were doing there. It's
music that you've always associated with Christmas, but having not seen the Nutcracker before, I kind of knew it was from there. Some of them I just didn't know what it was from. And then it put it all together and I was like, oh, okay. This is why people love this.
Yeah. That's exciting. We have a theater here that we go see some stuff occasionally, but it's probably not as big or as good as probably the Houston one. So you're in a much bigger area. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
My number 5.
Let me get your number 5.
Yeah.
Is it a movie?
My 5 is the surprise of the year for me.
Oh.
And that is The Penguin on HBO. I expected nothing from this show. I really first off, I'll say I love the Batman, the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman movie. Thought that was a really excellent movie. Colin Farrell was in that as the Penguin, very minor role. This movie was coming, or the show was coming out, and I was expecting, they're just trying to build out kind of their DC, multiverse, for lack of a better word, and utilizing their IP. And I was like, this is just going to be kind of some IP schlop, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I say that as a big fan of Colin Farrell. The show it rocked. Like, it was the Batman Sopranos. It was so good.
Okay.
Colin Farrell was amazing. And Kristen Milioti in it, playing the counterpart of Sophia, was amazing. One episode, maybe my favorite episode of television that I've seen this year, was the 4th episode of that series. And they just ended. They landed the plane on this show so well. So well.
Okay.
I was blown away. Big fan. I expected not much, and it blew me away.
I'm going to have to watch it. It may end up on my list for 2025.
Yeah. I think it's only 6 episodes. Pretty short watch.
About an hour each.
It's really good. Yeah, about an hour each. Yeah. Maybe it kind of in that, usual HBO 50 minutes to an hour, depending on credits, and they're always after the episode stuff.
That's awesome.
But we both really loved it. It was so good.
Yeah. Okay. I need to think about. I'm gonna have to add that to the list.
Yeah. I think you'd like it. Before we roll on the number 4, have a few more listener comments. I'll take this first one, and then you take the next one.
Let's do it.
First one comes again from Mr. Unbuckled. Logan from the Unbuckled Comics Podcast said, "I've waited all year for this." It's very kind of you to say. Read for a book, I'll say Dr. No, but I've only read 3 and I have finished 1 this year. Comic book, he said he'd say Why, The Last Man, totally unexpected and had me burning the pages as fast as I could. On the movie side, he said, this is tough. I think I'll say Deadpool and Wolverine. Again, it's the third vote for that. Crazy considering how down I've been on Marvel and how bad I thought this movie would be. Godzilla -1 is a very, very close second. Godzilla -1 was a very good movie. On the show side, he said The Penguin. I don't watch many shows this year, so good call here, Cake. Despite my gripes, I had fun. Sir Francis Cake is my gamer tag name, so that's why he's saying Cake.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, he's a big Batman guy, and he went into this, and I kept pushing him to watch it, and he went in a little skeptical, as you do if you're a big fan of kind of a source material, and the show won him over, and I was very happy to see that.
That's awesome.
On the play side, he said, you got to watch it. He said, not long of a list to pick from, but it's easy. Batman Arkham Asylum. It's been years since I revisited it, and I loved it as much as the first time. This is seriously an episode I look forward to, and I'm glad it's back. Happy holidays, RWP boys.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate that.
Though you cheated
really
and you'd already played Batman Arkham Asylum, so you really can't put that in your best of the year. But
Are
we'll
you
let
really
that
going to
slide.
call out listeners who are writing in for not following our arbitrary rules?
Yeah.
That I break repeatedly?
I am. So, get your shit together. You want to take the next one?
Yeah. Pickle wrote in and said, I'll keep it brief. Book, The Witcher, Baptism of Fire. Show, Tulsa King. I actually heard Tulsa King was better than expected. Movie, Godzilla -1. And last but certainly not least, the game, RoboCop Rogue City. I will say, I played The Witcher for the first time this year. The Witcher 3, actually.
Yeah.
For the first time this year, because I had anticipated us covering it at some point. And
we will, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will, but we didn't. So to see another Witcher on this list is pretty cool.
Yeah, they just announced The Witcher 4 next year.
And
a couple days ago.
It's going to be sweet. It looks so good, that trailer.
Witcher is high on my playlist. I'm also interested in the books. I'm also interested in the TV show. I just haven't engaged with it yet. It feels a little overwhelming, kind of like, where do you dip the toe in? Especially as it's called The Witcher 3 is like the big one now. And I'm like, well, do I have to go back and play The Witcher 1? Do I have to play The Witcher 2? Where do I start on the books? It all confuses me and I avoid. But
I will text you where to start with the books if you want to do that.
That'd be great.
But for video games on the podcast, I will say, just play The Witcher 3. If you're even remotely familiar with the story, you do not need to play 1 and 2.
Okay, cool. That I'm a little anal in some ways, so that kind of feels against the grain for me, but I'll trust you on that one.
You can. You're just going to spend a lot of time playing. And it's not that they're subpar games, but The Witcher 3 is so good that 1 and 2 don't hold up to 3 because of how amazing it is. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I am very interested in getting to that. We had another vote for Godzilla -1 from him. It's a really good movie. I was a huge fan. I'm not a Godzilla. I'm not experienced in the Godzilla world. And I watched that movie and I was like, this is a great movie. I'm interested in the RoboCop game. RoboCop, I think, is one of the most underrated action movies ever made. And I would like to play that game.
Yeah.
You want to give me your next pick? What are we on to, number 4 here?
Yep. Okay, so for this one, I picked the show From. And you and I have talked about this. And the reason I picked From and didn't pick shows like Shrinking or Abbott is because I have watched all 3 seasons of From this year. Like, I found the show this year. So I have From seasons 1 through 3 on here, but that's because we've watched the entire show in 2024. And I wanted to make that distinction. But the show is from the creators of Lost. They already know how it's going to end. Like, they've plotted out all 6 seasons. It just got renewed for season 4. It is a horror version of Lost. It is terrifying. It is nightmare fuel. It is a super bingeable show. And I highly recommend it to anybody who enjoys anything horror related, anything where, there's multiple plot lines. You don't have all the information. You're learning as the characters are learning. It's great.
I love it. Is that a book or am I thinking of something else that was this year?
No. No. A lot of it will remind you of The Watchers. And I don't know if it's the exact same thing going on as in The Watchers, but like that same darkness and feel and yes. But no, it's a just written screenplay for TV.
Yeah. I'm excited to check it out. I am a true blue Lost fanatic. Probably my favorite show of all time. So I'm very eager to check that out. Stuff. There's always so much to watch. It's hard to get to everything, but I'm excited. What service is that on?
Dude, you can either buy it on Prime, you can buy the seasons, or it's on like MGM Plus or something like that.
Okay, the MGM Plus add-on to Prime.
Yeah. So
that's
do with that what you will.
Yeah.
However,
just reminds me, I feel like I have AMC Plus from Prime and I forgot to cancel it. I just remembered right now. Cool.
No, but honestly, I saw a clip of it on TikTok. Yeah. This is before Michaela and I lived together, so Colin was still living with me. Yeah. And I was like, hey, look at this. And he thought it looked good too. So we watched the trailer. The three of us watched the trailer. We were all like, yeah, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Watched the first episode. And after watching the first episode, I bought the first season. I was like, I'm not even going to try to figure out where else to find this. It was $9.99.
Yeah.
We bought the first season and we watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes the first day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll have to check it out. I'm excited. I wonder if they have it in kind of like the physical like DVDs of the season. Because I might
Maybe
pick that up. Barnes & Noble often does like 50% off sales. That's cool. I will check that one out. My number 4 is the movie Anora that came out this year. I loved this movie so much. Mikey Madison was incredible in this. I got so invested into like this character, and it was this type of movie where I went in. I'll kind of tell everyone what I knew going into it. It's about a sex worker in New York City that falls into a relationship with a Russian oligarch. Think about kind of a maybe grittier Pretty Woman type of story.
Little meet cute. Yeah.
And I love this movie, and you know, without spoiling too much, it starts in a really fun, zany fashion and then devolves into some unexpected turns in the middle and then leaves you with, you know, in some ways a gut punch towards the end. And it's just a really incredible movie. I think right now it's probably the front runner for Best Picture, and I had an absolute blast seeing this. Not perfect, you know. It's not. I didn't give it a 5 out of 5, but I really love this movie, and I thought some of the leading performances and the supporting performances were just so good. So it's my number 4, Anora.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list too. Then.
Yeah,
because you've said that before about
I think
Anora.
both you and Michaela would love it.
All right,
it's really.
I'll talk to him. Really I'll see if we can watch it tonight or something. Yeah.
Listener comments. We're on to a few more. I think we've only got a couple left here. You want to take this first one?
Yeah. So from Blaine the Hoagie Man, me for reading. I haven't read anything this year, but I finally found a copy of Volume 1 of what is
IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What is IDW?
I think IDW is a sort of like a publishing brand in kind of the graphic novel comic world.
Okay, so like IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Since I found only a few of the comics, not enough to really get much of the story. Watching Deadpool and Wolverine, 4th nom for them. Plus, I've been enjoying the Drew Carey show since it finally came to streaming. Wow, that's a first one that we've heard, the Drew Carey show, which is a hysterical show. I remember watching it as like reruns after school.
If you gave me 100 guesses as to TV shows people would shout out writing in, would not have guessed the Drew Carey show. Hoagie Man, I love that you're coming in here puffing up the Drew Carey show. That's amazing stuff.
It's a great take.
I like Drew Carey.
And then playing, while this is my most utilized of the 3, my favorite thing I played this year was Astrobot, Randy.
There we go.
A nice third platformer with tons of nostalgia and incredible fun to be had. Okay. So that's 2 for Astrobot. Yeah. I gotta get on this.
Yeah. 2 for Astrobot, 4 for Deadpool Wolverine. That's surprising. I mean, it was a fun movie. It was, going to be one of the biggest movies of the year, no doubt.
Yeah. And your
sister wrote in, Blaine. Too. Yeah. My sister wrote in. I will say too, I was just on an episode of Blaine's podcast, Retro Riders, covering Pokemon Snap. If you want to hear me bitch about Professor Oak and the shenanigans that guy pulls grading your photographs in that game, go check that out. Brooke wrote in as well. And here it was. She said her show was shrinking. She's been on me to watch this.
It's amazing.
I really want to. Both people in it are incredible. It's Harrison Ford and Jason Segel, right? Is shrinking.
Yeah. And a number of other people you're going to recognize, but I don't want to.
I just see the image of what you see on Apple TV when you log on.
Yep.
Of just like their two faces. Is one of them a therapist, I'm assuming? Just judging by the name?
Therapists.
Both of them are therapists. Okay. I love that. Yeah, we're definitely going to watch it. Apple TV puts out some good stuff. I really like Apple TV.
Shrinking doesn't miss. I got to be honest. Like, no, it doesn't miss because we watched season 1 last year, which is why it didn't make it on my list this year. And it's either the best or second best sitcom on TV right now. Like that and Abbott Elementary are S tier. Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to watch it. I can commit to that. That is 100%. It seems right up our alley. Brooke also said that movie favorite of the year was The Fall Guy. I love The Fall Guy. Fall Guy was my hardest cut. I'll spoil it now on this.
Okay.
We just had so much fun seeing that movie. And I also have such a deep appreciation for the stunt world and the fact that this movie was a love letter to stuntmen and people who go put their bodies on the line to give us amazing sequences in movies. Like, I just loved that the director of this was a former stunt choreographer. I thought Gosling and Emily Blunt were just oozing with charm in this movie. I love The Fall Guy. I think it's the most... I'm so sad that this didn't do well at the box office. I think it just came out at a tough time in the year. I'm actually going to read our final comment here, and then I think we can just roll into our final two. Wrap it up then, if that works for you.
Don't we have 3 left?
We'll roll into our top 3 after this one. Final comment comes from Sam. Goes to the Retrotopia Pod. He said, "Read. I didn't read this as much this year as I normally do, but my surprise pick would be The Great Train Robbery. Loved it. Michael Crichton is the best." We have a lot of Michael Crichton. We got to do some more Crichton on this podcast.
We have a very specific fan base.
We do. All Michael Crichton fans and apparently all fans of Deadpool and Wolverine. On the watch side, oh my God, we have another shout for this. I don't think I watched a lot of movies this year either, but Godzilla -1, and it's not even close. Godzilla -... Nick, have you seen this movie? You got to go watch it now.
I know. I'm watching this. I'm watching Wolverine and Deadpool, and I'm reading more Michael Crichton.
Yeah, seriously. I love this. If it turns out, I saw this last year, but I'll go with Just a Bit Outside, the Brewers 1982 World Series documentary. What a great shout. I know Sam's a big Brewers fan. And on the play side, he said the Silent Hill 2 remake for sure. I'm not even done with it yet, but I'm so impressed with the creep factor, the graphics, the atmosphere, the puzzles. Excellent game.
Okay.
Silent Hill, I want to play, but I'm a bit of a baby about that one.
Really?
It always scared me. Even as a kid, it was one of those games you saw on the shelf at GameStop, and I'm like, I don't think I'm cut out for this.
Gotcha.
There was a movie too, wasn't there? A Silent Hill movie?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Or 2?
Yeah. I think so. All right, on to our top 3.
I intentionally omitted number 3 in protest of this list being 7.
That does not count.
No, I'm just kidding. The Witcher 3. First playthrough makes number 3. Wanted to include a game. And then as I was thinking back, I only played a couple of games this year. And then I was thinking back about how much time I actually spent. Let me put some context around this. I played The Witcher 3 and Fallout this year. And I played Fallout because we were covering it. And I kind of just did what I needed to get through. But The Witcher 3, I played for months. And then I realized how much time I spent playing it and how much I did enjoy playing it. And I was like, actually, I don't even think I need to force a game onto this list. This was awesome.
Yeah.
And so The Witcher 3 made it. And then it was just figuring out where it made it. And I have it at number 3.
Because it's Witcher 3?
Coincidence. Great. Great observation. Pure coincidence. It just was my third favorite thing I watched, played, or read this year.
Nice. That's good to hear. I'm so excited to get to it. I'm kind of surprised you mentioned it. No one has written in saying Fallout was one of their favorites on the show side this year. Because I was listening to a podcast about streaming numbers from this year, and Fallout was, I think, Amazon's biggest show in 2024. And
what other shows
people
did
really
Amazon
loved it.
have in 2024?
I don't know. I don't watch enough TV to know.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
I'm not really sure what Amazon has these days, but I think Reacher was a big one for them this year because that came out over the winter, I think last year at Christmas time. But Fallout was a huge hit. They have a new franchise on their hands, and I enjoyed season 1. I don't know. We talked about like if we were going to follow up and play more of those games. I don't know if I will. Like it was fine, but I just don't know if it's the type of game for me.
Yeah.
But that's good. I'm excited to get to The Witcher.
No,
my number 3 is actually
fine. I'm sorry. Fallout was not fun. Like the game, I did not enjoy that at all. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just like,
yeah.
What?
I thought you were talking about The Witcher. I was like, okay, you like it.
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Fallout. Like Fallout was not like the game. I felt was really repetitive and only kind of fun at points. Mm-hmm. I just didn't enjoy it the way I thought I was going to. The show was awesome.
Yeah. Which this is a great follow-up then, because I'm going to use Fallout to make a point here. My number 3 is I started the Mass Effect trilogy, and I played Mass Effect 1, and I loved this game. I loved it so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I played this on the back of Fallout. Fallout came out a year after Mass Effect 1, and Fallout is superior in every single way. The characterization... No, Mass Effect. The characters, the storytelling, even just like something that really like I'm not a graphics snob by any means or anything like that, but the characters and kind of the voice acting in Fallout I felt was so bad. Like distractingly bad, and not in like, if I play a PS2 game or an N64 game, I expect that now. But this wasn't that old. And then I played Mass Effect and it was just so much better, I found. I really loved this story. I really love the world they built. And I am so excited to go on and play Mass Effect 2. I slept on this for so long and I love it. Any experience with the Mass Effect franchise?
Yeah, I love the Mass Effect franchise. I'm so glad you're playing it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it because I was actually a senior in college when I played the first Mass Effect, and maybe the second Mass Effect had come out at that point too. And I think I missed class the next day. Like I just sat there and played the game all day. It was awesome. I couldn't get enough.
I didn't know you had played it. I love this game so much. I love the world. I feel deeply in love with my crew and cared about them.
Yeah.
The game is hornier than any video game I've ever played in my life. Everybody is trying to sleep with everyone all the time. And I was not prepared for that when I got into this game. But the love life on the Normandy it's like an episode of Jersey Shore. It's crazy.
Yes. So Mass Effect 2. Oh, I would have played the first two because Mass Effect 2 came out in 2010.
Yeah.
You're right about...
Sorry, go ahead.
You can have relationships with whoever the hell you want to have relationships with. They made a point.
It's a horny game.
Yeah.
It's a horny game. There's been rumors for a long time that Amazon Prime is trying to develop a Mass Effect show. I would be excited to cover that. Because
for sure.
These games are a lot of fun. I think after the holiday season, I'm gonna get my teeth into Mass Effect 2, which people have been shouting from the rooftops is a great game. So
yeah.
My number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is watching Saquon Barkley absolutely embarrass the New York Giants on primetime TV and break the hearts of Giants fans around the country. You are the worst behind only Dallas Cowboys fans, and I do not wish you a Merry Christmas.
You've broken every undocumented rule of this episode. But for this one, I'll allow this one.
I watched that happen.
Yeah, it's
It
true.
was
It's true.
it was one of the best things. Actually, it was probably the best thing I watched this year.
Yeah, Saquon's the best. I love him. I love having him. It's kind of like what's Champ from Anchorman when he's telling Ron Burgundy how much he loves him,
Yeah,
and how much he misses him. It's kind of how I feel during the week, waiting for Saquon to play again. I miss his musk. I miss your smell. What all Champ says.
I would lay in a puddle so that Saquon doesn't have to get his shoes wet.
He's so great. Big fan. It's been a great year having him, and I'm so excited he's here.
He
so good.
Was 13 yards away from his single game rush record.
Mm-hmm.
And they were up so much because the Giants are such a garbage team and have been for a while because they're stupid. That he was like, nah, I don't need it. He said, let the other boys eat. And I was like, that's the type of guy you are. And it breaks my heart that you haven't been on this team longer and that you are stuck in such a poor franchise for so long because you deserve better.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes the Hard Knocks Giants seem even just better in retrospect of them figuring out what to do with him. Oh, so good.
I watched the clip of the owner telling Joe Sheen or whatever his name is, like, if he goes to the Eagles, I'm going to lose sleep over this once a week. It gets me through till Sunday.
And I loved Giants fans pretending that Saquon, like they were happy to see him go. And I'm like, this is, I don't know the exact definition of Stockholm Syndrome, but this sounds like what that would be, where you're just completely delusional.
Yeah. They're all trying to say Saquon's not as good as everybody thinks he is. He's overrated, blah, blah, blah. He's not a superstar. And then you give, now admittedly, the Eagles offensive line is fantastic, but you give Saquon even an inch of space and you're not a total garbage of a team.
Yeah.
And look what he does. He's the NFL leading rusher this year.
Yeah. He's great. Love him. Big fan. My number 2.
Yes. Hit me with it.
My number 2, this television show is so good that I almost want to write a book so we can consider this an adaptation and cover it on this show. And that is Severance. We watched season 1 of Severance this year.
So good.
Oh my God, do I love this show. I'm already a big Ben Stiller guy. Already a big fan of Adam Scott. John Turturro, amazing. This show knocked my socks off. And we were addicted. Very rarely do we watch a show and we binge through it as fast as we possibly can, but we did that with Severance. And that finale just rocked my world. And I cannot wait for season 2. I cannot wait for that next year.
Okay.
I am so ready. Severance is an amazing show.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and it's been so long. It's been so long since season 1 came out. And I'm so glad you said that. And honestly, we could just cover it anyway. We could just talk about it.
Yeah.
As season 2 is coming out. I'd be totally fine with. I mean, clearly I'm into breaking some of the rules of this show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we could do, our bonus episode that month could maybe be on Severance or something, because that show's so good. It's so good.
It's so good. It is so good. And there's so many places to take this.
Yeah.
With season 2. And I just hope we don't have to wait 5 years for season 3.
I think what I'm nervous for, without giving away anything, in case people have not watched Severance yet, because if you haven't, you should go watch that over the holiday season. It's on Apple TV. I'm worried. I'm not worried. I'm an optimistic person typically. And I expect that everything's going to be great and I'm going to love it. And then I have my heart broken when I don't. But this is entering territory where they've kind of cracked the glass on this show. And it's going to get a little bit bigger. And that's hard to contain in a show because the world gets a little bit bigger. The storylines are getting a little more unraveled with how they're going to go about telling this. So they have a tough act to follow in after season 1.
They do.
But They wrote such a great season of television that I believe they can do it, and I cannot wait.
Okay.
I'm pumped.
Yeah,
And
I am
with that,
too. That's going to be a great one.
yeah. I feel like it's like April or May. I can't remember. It's spring sometime next year.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. Cannot
Have
wait.
they even announced an official date or just kind of like a time frame?
I feel like there's been chatter on it. Let me look it up real quick. Severance season 2 release date. No, it looks like we don't have a specific date yet. Wait,
Yeah.
Severance season 2 premieres January 17th. What? Oh my
That's
God.
true.
It looks like it 4 days ago. Finally has a release date.
Oh, wow. Are you looking at these articles about what people are saying about the season 2, like the people that get the sneak peek of season 2?
No. Oh boy. Nick, we have less than a month. We have almost exactly a month to go for Severance season 2. Oh my God. This just made my day. I'm so glad. We look this up.
Are they dropping all 10 episodes at one time?
I don't know what Apple TV's release strategy is. You would know better than me. What is their release strategy?
It's not usually what they do, but that's what this Collider article says. In January, Apple TV will drop the 10-episode second season of Dan Erickson's massively popular sci-fi psychological series. I'm wondering if they're not just going to like do... Apple used to do this thing where they would release like 2 or 3 episodes and then one by one, and I thought that was great, and I'm kind of hoping they do that here.
I like that. I like batch strategies, maybe 5 and 5. I like a weekly release. I like feeling like there's a monoculture talking about a show. I'll be a little sad. I mean, I'll be happy to get this and watch it, but I like when something doesn't feel like it's all at once and it's a flash in the pan. I want to build on the theories throughout a season of this with people. So
you'll love From that. Catch up.
Yeah, I will.
The Reddit boards are crazy.
God. Wow. 1 month to go. This is amazing. Do you want to give me your number 1 before my brain can't even think anymore? So excited.
Yeah. My number 1 this year is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. It's
never even heard of it.
Fantasy book, massively popular in this world. It is the first book in what is called the Stormlight Archives. I've read some other Brandon Sanderson, and Brandon Sanderson was probably in my top 3 fantasy authors with John Gwynne and Joe Abercrombie.
Okay.
But I read the first book in this. The 5th book in the series just came out, and I can see what the hype is.
Yeah.
And I've just started the second one. I'm really, and I don't even think the book is great. Don't get me wrong. And it sets up some really cool characters, but I think it's the anticipation that's putting this at the top of my list, because everyone says the second book is where it really just starts going like to another level. And because of that buildup that I can feel now, and I just finished it in November. So it's really sitting highly with me.
Yeah. It's nice. You read a good book this year. I'm envious.
Actually, I read 3 books. Actually, I was on this because I had a book by Sanderson, a book by John Gwynne, and a book by Joe Abercrombie, my favorite authors, that I read one from each of them this year. And I was like, I can't have all of them. So I had to pick. Yeah. And it was tight. It was really tight, but this one took it.
Nice. That's awesome. I want to get into a new fantasy series next year. That's kind of my sub reading goal of the year.
Let's talk. I got some for you.
Yeah, it's I want to get my teeth into something meaty. So yeah, we'll talk about what fantasy series that might be.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to shout about recommendation wise on that book, The Way of Kings?
I will say, for those of you who do not read much fantasy, it may be a bit daunting as it's like a 1,050 page book and it's the shortest in the series.
Yeah.
If you are looking for intro fantasy recommendations and wanted to read something by Brandon Sanderson, I would recommend a book called Mistborn.
Mistborn.
Yeah, it's a really cool introduction to the same universe that this book takes place in. It's a fantasy heist book.
I love a heist.
And it is really cool and really well done. And there's some characters you're going to fall in love with. And it's exciting and it's fast paced. It's like 320 pages or something, 400 pages. I don't know.
Cool.
But that would be a good, actually, Randy, that might be my recommendation to you, but we'll talk about what exactly you're looking for. But if you want to read Brandon Sanderson because you've heard a lot about him and how layered his work is, Mistborn is the natural starting place.
Yeah. Had me at heist. I'm in.
It's a really cool heist book.
Cool. That's awesome. Did you have any Sanderson on your list last year? I'm trying to remember. I remember your books were The Silent Patient.
I might have had Mistborn.
I think you had a Joe Abercrombie book last year.
I definitely
not a Sanderson.
Would've. I read like 4 Joe Abercrombie books last year.
We'll have to look it up. I know we posted it on our Instagram, which we'll have to.
I might be able to pull my list up right now. I think it might be one of these tabs here because I was looking at last year's list to make sure that
you weren't overlapping,
that I hadn't put From on it, and then because I remember we started watching it in January of this year.
Because From definitely came out this year. No, you did Greenbone Saga, Silent Patient, and The Empty Man were your picks last year.
Yeah. Well, no, The Empty Man is a movie.
Oh, movie. Okay. Cool. My number 1. I said this at the start of the year. I said, I'm a little worried that my favorite thing that we cover and my favorite movie of the year is going to happen in February. And it's just going to be all downhill from here. And it was. Dune Part 2, my number 1. I loved this movie. And it started the year out on a bang. Yeah, I mean, it was like The Last of Us last year. It was my year was started. Number 1 is already locked in.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I love this movie so much, and it has stood up for me through the whole year. First movie since probably The Dark Knight Rises that I saw multiple times in theaters. I had a blast covering it with you. I had a blast seeing people enjoy this movie, and it delivered, and it was a great follow-up, and I was so happy to have more Zendaya in this movie and have the character of Chani grow. Our girl Rebecca Ferguson was back. The cast blew up with some new additions that were so much fun, and I feel like Denis Villeneuve just really treated us to an amazing entry in the history of fantasy sci-fi films, and I love this one. So I was super happy, and I'm so relieved that it met the expectations and delivered. It's my number 1 of the year.
I was pretty close to putting this on my list. That was probably going to be my number 2 if I hadn't gone with the Saquon Barkley thing. But I knew it was going to be somewhere on your list. So when we got down, I was just waiting for you to say that Dune won it for you.
Yeah. Well, I think last year too, you said you didn't put Last of Us on your list because you knew I was going to. So you could talk about it then. So I felt like you did the same thing on this one.
Yeah. And I'm not doing that to like throw any shade about
no
Dune. Yeah. But like it lets us talk about something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think having the variety is great. It's nice to have 2 completely different lists.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just loved it.
It was so good.
It was so good. It was such a fun time. As we get into next year, I'm excited to cover something that's fresh again and coming out in real time, because it was just so fun to get prepped for that and us both to go see it and then talk about it so soon after. It was great. And the movie just delivered. I loved it.
My only disappointment with Dune 2 is the fact that I saw the first showing on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It came out on a Friday. And the Dune popcorn bucket had already sold out. And
I know.
I had gone there on Thursday to see something else that we were doing for the podcast, and they had them. I said, "Oh, can I buy one?" They said, "Not till tomorrow, and you need to have a movie ticket." And I said, "Okay, I'll get it Saturday morning." They already sold out. None of them had it. None of them came back in stock. That was my only disappointment with Dune 2.
I agree, man. I was so sad. I think I went on a Saturday. I think we both went Saturday, and they were out of the bucket. And I've never been more heartbroken in my life after a movie that I loved.
Yeah, and then you go online and see that people had bought like 10, 15 buckets and were selling them for $80. And I'm like, there should have been a cap.
Bragging about their popcorn buckets, just rubbing it in all our faces.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love Dune. What was your hardest omission on your list this year, honorable mention wise?
Honestly, it was pretty hard not to put Dune in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we both had a good time with that.
And it was pretty hard to not put the book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, in that list. But with my list, I try to make it more than just books, movies, and podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, there's some, or games, try to throw a podcast in there through the ballet, and they're like, I try to get some of that mix.
Yeah, I agree. I think hardest for me was I didn't have a single book on my list this year. There was nothing worthy of it for me, unfortunately. The closest thing, I read a book called Making Movies by one of my favorite directors, Sidney Lumet. That was really good and a really straightforward, interesting behind the scenes look into how movies are made. And super short. I loved it. That was the closest thing. And my favorite book that I actually read this year. Surprised? Sorry, go ahead.
I got another one.
Yeah.
Ready Player One. I loved the book. It kind of ruined the movie for me reading the book, if I'm being honest. But I enjoyed it a lot, and it's on this list, but I just couldn't figure out where it fit.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not as big of a fan, but I'm glad you enjoyed that one. Others for me, I played the Spider-Man game on PlayStation that came out in like 2018. It was a lot of fun. I really loved it.
You said that before too.
I had a blast. I had a blast playing it. That was a hard omission. But Mass Effect and Astrobot were just so good.
Yeah.
I was thinking about slotting that in. I like Presumed Innocent on Apple TV. We enjoyed that show. Not enough to make my top list, but we had fun with it. The only other things I'd shout out, I told you I restricted my movie list to 2024. So I wanted to give very rapid fire. These are films that did not release this year that I gave 5 stars that I watched for the first time.
Okay.
Mad Max Fury Road. I think it's in the top 3 action movies that have been released in the 21st century. This movie is unbelievable. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. So good.
That's a great one.
I slept on Parasite. I'd not watched Parasite. And Parasite, holy shit, is that movie good. I mean, it lives up to it.
Yes.
We watched it and it shook us. I mean, we were rattled from that. It is an incredible movie. You have to watch Parasite if you've not seen Parasite. It was just the one I missed it at the time. And like when a movie or anything gets really hyped, you just kind of, I don't know, you get nervous or like you avoid it, or at least that's what I do. And the final one I'll give is Dog Day Afternoon. This is an old Al Pacino movie from the 70s, and it instantly shot into my top 10 movies of all time. I love this movie so much. And it is about a bank robbery gone wrong that are 2 guys trying to pull off. Al Pacino is one of them. It was directed by the guy, Sidney Lumet, that wrote that book, Making Movies. And this movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it is so good. Go check it out. See some young Pacino. It's around his Godfather kind of age. Huge fan.
Nice.
We didn't bring up at all House of the Dragon. I think it was tough. I expected that this would have been on my list, but I think maybe I am a little more disappointed than I thought I was initially watching with how we ended.
Yeah. That's if they had finished the season, it would have probably been number 1 on my list, but they didn't, and it made me mad. And for that, it's what you're saying. I intentionally left this off my list.
Yeah. It if we were going by the first 4 episodes, this would have been in the top 3 of my list, easy. But I think they lost the thread a little bit in the second half of the season, and that's
it's not even to me. It's not even that they lost the thread; it's that they didn't tie off the knot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that those episodes were bad.
Yeah, I agree. I was sad to see it not make either our lists. As we're big A Song of Ice and Fire stands. I have one more thing to shout out, I promise, and then I'm done. We talk about scenes on this podcast a lot.
Did we?
Yeah, a little bit. I like scenes. In the summer, we saw a little movie called Bad Boys Ride or Die, and I'm a Ride or Die Bad Boys franchise fan.
Okay.
And I want to just shout out this scene. Bad Boys 2, there's a guy called Reggie. He is Martin Lawrence's daughter's boyfriend. He's like 15 years old at the time at Bad Boys 2. They're going to prom together. He's a nerd. Martin Lawrence does the classic dad, makes fun of him. Come Ride or Die. Reggie and the daughter are married, and Reggie's a Marine. And someone is trying to attack Martin Lawrence's family, and they don't know Reggie is in the house. And Reggie, I'm getting emotional thinking about this. Reggie steps up.
Okay.
There were 2 dudes in our movie theater. I think they were shirtless, beating their chest during the scene. There was a woman crying in the back row. It was like Avengers Endgame in the theater during this scene. And Reggie tore the roof off. It was Reggie Wick is what it was. And let me tell you, Bad Boys Ride or Die, it's not making any top 7 list.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie. We had a great time. But Reggie, you're a real one.
Now I gotta watch this.
Yeah. It was so good. To close out here, now that we've done our list, can you give us a quick recap, 7-1 for the audience, of your actual covert 9 nominees, I believe?
It's actually only 8 because I omitted number 3. But starting at 7, I had the Normal Gossip podcast. Really fun, lighthearted. Check it out. At number 6, I had 3 books, Casino, Wise Guy, and Donnie Brasco, all of which are true stories about the mafia. They're all movies we're going to cover. They're really short reads. Love them. The Nutcracker came in at number 5, a ballet. Hadn't seen it before. Really enjoyed it. Had a really special time. Number 4 was From. From was included over other TV shows because I watched the entirety of seasons 1 through 3 this year. I intentionally omitted number 3 in protest of Randy not letting this be a top 5 list. If I had to pick one, it would be The Witcher 3, best video game I played this year. I only played 2, but it deserves the number 3 spot. Number 2 was watching Saquon Barkley absolutely embarrass the Giants and break the hearts of Giants fans around the country. It doesn't get much better than that. The only thing that could have made it better if it was Cowboys fans that were suffering in that way. And then The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson was my number 1, and I'm really excited to continue that series.
Love it.
You going to recap yours?
Yep. Hit it. 7 is Astrobot on PlayStation 5. 6 is Kneecap, one of my favorite movies of the year, free on Netflix right now. Number 5 is The Penguin on HBO, surprise of the year. Number 4 is Anora, I think is going to win Best Picture next year, probably. I don't think you can see it anywhere on streaming yet. I think it's still in theaters. Number 3 is Mass Effect. I played this on PlayStation as well, part of the Legendary Edition of that trilogy. Number 2 is Severance. Severance is amazing. It's on Apple TV. You should go watch Severance now before season 2 airs in January. And my number 1 is Dune Part 2. I absolutely love this movie, and I was ecstatic to put this number 1 on my list.
I said, are you going to do your list? And you said, yep, hit it. And then you went yourself.
I told myself to hit it. All right. We can wrap up here. We can talk. I want to hear just maybe 1 or 2 things that you're excited for next year. We've already mentioned a little bit of, Mafia May. We had this question
for that
from Logan, who had said last episode we talked about, he said, of all the podcasts I listen to, you two have some of the best chemistry I've heard. Your back and forth banter makes the show. especially when Nick says, "Oh, Randy, come on," in a disappointing tone. My question here is for Nick. What has been the most offensive intro Randy has subjected you to?
You know what, Logan? To be honest, there's like 8 that come to mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go listen to all of them again from the last year. And when I'm done having my feelings being hurt, I will get back on here and I will let you know at the very beginning of the next episode my top 3 offensive Randy intros.
Love it. Yeah, it'll be a good way to kick off Twilight. Because you're going to get a rough one. Buckle up for that one.
I'm doing the intro for that one. It's my birthday. You don't get to do.
That's true. Yeah, you get.
And not only that, we're recording it on my actual birthday, so
that's true.
You don't get to be mean to me.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I get to be mean to you. We'll see.
He said, coming full circle, what are our plans or ambitions for year 2? Any big titles you got planned? Nick, what are you excited for in 2025?
I've never read Fight Club.
Yeah.
And I've never read Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
Fight Club being the one we're doing for your birthday, and Shawshank just ended up on the list. I am excited for that. I'm actually finishing a series by Joe Abercrombie and a series by John Gwynne next year. They're my first 2 books I'm reading when I'm done with this Brandon Sanderson one. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. Movie-wise, I'm really excited for Mickey 17. I'm like pumped for us to cover that.
Me too. I mean, that is Bong Joon-ho, director of Parasite. It's his first movie since Parasite. Yeah. Robert Pattinson, we're both big fans. I'm excited to read this book. I'm excited to see this movie. I can't wait. Yeah, I'd say that's my top movie I'm excited for.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, after Parasite, it's got to be number 1 for me. Obvious. Last of Us season 2. I cannot wait. Like I said, I miss the Dune 2 energy of us covering something that has just come out. So I'm excited to have something like fresh that's being released that we can talk about. But
did that come out this year? Did neither one of us put that on our list, or is that last year that it came out? The Last of Us.
Last of Us was last year because it was number 1.
That's what I thought.
List.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. I was like, there's no way neither one of us put The Last of Us on our list.
No. Season 2.
Yeah.
No, I can't wait. I'm pumped for that. I'm so excited to cover that together. That will be a really good one. In terms of plans for the pod, I'm excited to see how we grow next year. I mean, we've batted around the idea of doing full video. That might be something we test the limits on come year 2 and start throwing those up on YouTube. They might be more of a sort of uncut version. We'll take out the obvious things, but it might be a little bit more raw of, you getting to see kind of our recording process. As editing video will just be probably triple the consumption of the editing process. But that's something we're both eager to do. And I think, that's kind of the way podcasts are moving a little bit.
It would be interesting to have to build a little studio behind me, not just my little bookshelf with some plants on it.
Yeah. Fill it out. People see the ugly mugs, week in, week out. Anything, I hope to cover some better books next year. I'm excited. I think we have some bangers on the docket with Fight Club, Shawshank, Mickey 17, Mafia May, Gone Girl. That was what I referenced earlier. I think it's going to be one of my favorites. I watched Gone Girl in the past couple weeks, and wow, that movie rips hard.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a good year of reading. I'd like to work in some fantasy into the show too next year.
Look into it.
I really want to read Dr. Sleep next year. And
it's really good. The book is really good.
I'm excited to check that out and do some more King. I'd like to do Lost World too. Maybe that'll be like our 2-year anniversary or something. But sky's the limit next year. I feel like we've got a real solid lineup to kind of kick off the year. I mean, I don't know if I want to call Twilight solid, but it'll be a fun episode. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, solid episode.
Easy, yeah. But we'll see. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, so I'll reserve judgment.
There is one scene in this movie that I cannot wait to talk about with you.
Yeah. There's a billion scenes in this book that I cannot wait to talk about with you. Because I literally texted you, wow, chapter 4 might be the most painstaking thing I've put myself through. And then I texted you an hour later and said, scratch that, chapter 5's worse.
Yeah, I will. Here's what I'll read what you said. No, yeah. And then you sent a gif of Schmidt going, "Oh."
Yeah. It's been tough, but hey, I'm excited to cover it. I'm excited for next year. I think we got a lot of good stuff coming down the pike. I love doing our lists. I love hearing what you've loved covering or reading or watching outside the podcast. It's always fun for me. And I love hearing what people have been up to, which is Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah. And
Godzilla -1.
Godzilla -1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Astrobot.
Astrobot. Yeah. Go check out Astrobot. Deadpool Wolverine's fun. It's something good to throw on. I think it's on Disney Plus now. If you like Ryan Reynolds, you'll like it. It's a good energy. There's some good music in it. I think it's a little sloppy plot wise, but I don't go into a Marvel movie for tight plot and storytelling.
No, you go to have fun.
I go to have fun, and I had fun. Anything else you want to say to close out the year?
God bless Argyle. And
thanks for listening, everybody. I'm not going to give the usual end of the year spiel. I'll just say thanks. Thanks for listening to our show this year. We had a great time. We said it on the last episode, but Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a great time off. I hope you have a great time with your family. Thanks, Nick. Take it easy, everyone.
Thanks, Randy. Till next year.